Because I'm happy, clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy, clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy, clap along if you feel like.
Here, awesome. Good morning, everyone. For our guest, my name is Monica Rivera. Oh, can you hear? Quick sound check. Sound check.
Yes, we can hear.
Jorge, your audio is not connected. It's the technology happens, you guys. Let me go ahead and make sure everyone's connected, and then we can go ahead and get started. Awesome. You're still on mute, Jorge. I'm gonna go ahead and get started with some of the stats and everything and introductions, and then while you get your audio on, and we'll get you on very soon, Jorge. Awesome. Everyone else, looks like from the comments, audio is good to go. So awesome. Good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. My name is Monica Rivera. I'm the team leader for Keller Williams Southeast Los Angeles. Really excited to talk about this topic today. And I'm excited to have the guest that I have on with me, Rich Rector, the owner of our office. He's been through a couple shifted markets, so excited to have him on to talk more about this topic with me. And Jorge Mesa, who is currently looks like he just got connected to audio and is on mute. But Jorge is going to be sharing, we're going to go through a couple different things with absentee owners specifically, and Jorge is going to be sharing some of the tools that you have available for you right now on how to really prospect this group. So as we get started, one of the things that I wanted to start with is, for those that know me, they know that the one book that I have not put down during this entire, pandemic, during this entire kind of shift in the market. In fact, I've probably had this on my side table for the past 2 years. I taught a class on this 2 years ago, but I have not put this book down. It's Shift, right? Shift, which is the tactics that we have to have in place during shifted markets. And there's 2 tactics that, as we look at the market that we're in and we look at the market of the moment, there's 2 of them that have really been on my mind, that have been the ones that are a little bit more focused. Now, this book was written a decade ago, and yet one of the tactics is around mastering the market of the moment, right? It's around mastering the market of the moment. And it says, well, some market factors remain the same no matter the market. Other factors will change in every market. Each shift has its own unique characteristics with possibilities and prospects that are specific to that market. And that's so important right now, right? Because as we look at this topic of absentee owners, the reason that this is what we're talking about right now is that the market has changed dramatically as a result of what's going on with the pandemic right now, right? And there's certain subgroups of individuals where anytime a market shifts, right, there's different players that come out in that market. There's different opportunities that come out in that market. And if you were around during the last shift in 2009, then that market was a lot of foreclosures. It was REOs. It was the short sale market. And yet this market is different, right? And so we talked last month about the forbearance opportunity to take listings. And we really also want to talk about the market as it pertains to absentee owners, because it's impacted directly by what's happening in the forbearance market, right? We know that in a city where so many tenants are renters in Los Angeles County and in California, about 60% of the housing market out there is a rental market, right? And so when we look at that and we realize that there's an impact that comes into play when unemployment becomes a factor, there's a lot of landlords out there, especially our mom and pop landlords, or those that have these smaller portfolios that are in a tough situation right now, right? That are being faced with a situation where they might not have the financial resources to sustain continuing to maintain the properties that they have without the financial resources, right? And that's one of the reasons why absentee owners are such an important target category, right? So a couple things just quickly on the agenda of what we're going to be going over today. We want to share a little bit about what an absentee owner is. We talked a little bit right now about why they're so important, and we'll go into that just a little bit more. And then we're going to go in how to find the absentee owners, right? How to find your absentee owners, how to talk with those absentee owners, and what tools are available for you to market those absentee owners. Fair? Awesome. And then if there's any questions that come up, please feel free to drop those in the comments. I'll note if you're watching on Facebook Live, because I do see we have quite a few of you watching on the Facebook Live as well. Feel free, we won't look at the comments there as much. We're going to be looking at them here first. And if we have time towards the end, then I'll make sure to look at the comments there as well. So just wanted to know, I dropped the link there as well. So if you want to make sure that your questions are answered, please feel free to jump on the Zoom as well, right? So a couple things. What is an absentee owner? Right? What is an absentee owner? So essentially, when we start looking at an absentee owner, there's a couple different options here, but essentially it's going to be someone that is absent. They don't actually live in the property, right? This could be someone that is an out-of-state owner. It could be someone that inherited the property through will or probate. They could have bought it as a rental, right? And some of them may have tenants. Some of the properties might be vacant, right? They may have bought a property and bought it for a child or a parent to live in, and yet there's nobody in that property for one reason or another. So it's essentially, when we look at absentee owner, we're looking at a property where the owner it's non-owner occupied. The owner is essentially absent. And so there's a couple different pieces around that. And it's especially important right now because of what's going on in the market. Jorge, do you want to share? I know there was some statistics that you had around the number of absentee owners that you guys are seeing on the market right now. Do you want to give us a little insight on that?
Yeah, well, just to compare last year to today, last year for title companies, I'm going based on pretty much all the Fidelity financial title companies, 7 companies. Our absentee owners title orders were like around 10%. It's almost 11%. Right now, and I don't have the latest numbers, I can assure you they're growing. We're at 63%. That's our business is pretty much coming from absentee owners, 63%. I don't ever recall seeing something like that. Never. Not even on the 2008, 7. I don't ever recall seeing that many absentee owners selling. And there's different factors that I'm going to talk when you ask me to join on that.
Absolutely awesome. Thank you.
So it's grown. What's grown 5 times, Jorge? Is it the transactions, the closings, the openings? So think about that, guys. 5 times in 1 year. 5 times the amount of openings for transactions are absentee owners. So is that a market of the moment?
Can I share my screen for a second?
Absolutely.
Oh, I'm disabled.
Give me 1 sec. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm giving you both. There you go.
I know you guys saw this. I post this and I put one in each desk. But this is gonna tell you why this absentee owners is so big. It's such a huge market. I mean, it's right there. It's so black and white, so easy to understand. But this is not only your present. These numbers are also your future. The future is going to be NOVs and trustee sales. So this is going to resume your present and your future because you're on this business to make money now, but also in the future. So it's going to be a different market that we need to get ready and we need to understand that market.
Yeah. So what that says right there is the mortgage delinquencies up 20%, right? And as you know from last month's webinar, we talked about mortgage forbearances. Almost 10% of the homeowners in the United States are in some sort of mortgage forbearance, which means they're not making their mortgage payments, whether that's by choice with the CARES Act, or that's because they're one of the 40 million that are unemployed. What he's saying there, guys, is that this is the market of the moment. Is we're going to see delinquencies, we're going to see foreclosures, we're going to see short sales. Obviously, we're seeing absentee owners, selling their properties because of why? Because tenants aren't paying them and they can't evict them. And they see this market and what's going to be happening, and they don't want to have that asset anymore. So there's a lot of these things that these absentee owners are recognizing that, hey, this is probably the best time to sell high, right? And park my equity or put it in something else than to ride this out where I'm not getting paid by my tenants and I'm having to, have a negative cash flow. So that's why this is so important. And the other thing I wanted to just point out is absentee doesn't just mean in California. There's a lot of Californians that own property in a lot of other states because it's a lot cheaper in other states that have investments. So as you're talking to clients, one investor here probably has properties somewhere else, and there's opportunities for you as you're having a conversation to get referrals with those properties as well in those other states.
Javier Munoz was very nice, and he shared this information with me today because there was a lot of filings of on retrend, and he called me this morning and he showed me that pretty much is notice of delinquency. So we have through Javier Munoz that he's paying for this system. We have, and I say we because we're like family. We have this data for you guys. This is before NOV and trusted sales. All these people, they're in trouble. I was amazed. Just in Orange County, I don't even have the numbers for LA County, but just in Orange County, in 4 days, there was over 1,500 filings of notice of delinquency. That's huge. It's a huge market for you guys. It's I was telling my wife last night, yeah, I want to become a realtor. There's a huge market that 90% of the agents are missing. I can become part of that 10%. And that's why, I have agents still asking me for NODs and trustee sales farming. There's no filings right now on that. It's pretty slow. The market is called absentee owners. And this is just to prove that the market is here and it's big.
Absolutely. That's huge, right? We look at something like this, and I really will note, guys, we look at this as the lead measures versus the lag measures. So some of you have heard me talk about that before, right? But when we start really looking at our business, lead measures are essentially the predictors of a future result, where the lag measures is what is that actual result. So we know, as an example, the lead measures, the number of homeowners that are currently past due on their mortgages, right? The percentage of people that are experiencing unemployment right now. Those are the lead measures that are helping us predict what's going to happen in the future. And what we know, right, what we know to be true is that there is going to be listing inventory, right? There will absolutely be listing inventory as a result of what's happening in the market right now, as a result what's happening for individuals financially. The question is, are you going to go out and get your unfair share, right? Are you going to pivot? Are you going to take the action that you need to take right now so that you can get a piece of that pie, right? And I'll note, this is about helping your clients as well, right? Is we need to help those individuals that are out there and they're struggling a little bit, because I will tell you this, I know so many individuals that are out there. I've had an investor that I was working with that had decided to give up their earnest money deposit, right? Instead of moving forward on a property. Why? Because they'd rather lose a little than lose a lot, right? And so we much rather be able to put you in a position where you can help your clients to protect their credit history, to protect themselves, right? To get into a position where maybe the best option for them is to sell, right? And you're helping to protect them in that way, right? That's really important.
Interrupt, Monica?
Absolutely.
And the best thing about this market is you are going from an investor owning one or two properties to a flipper. I'm going to flip my house. And the reality, low interest, no inventory, I can make extra money on that listing. So it went from being a bad situation to being an okay situation because I'm going to make money on this property. So it's not that bad. And you know what? I will wait for the next opportunity for me to become an investor. But right now I'm going to be a flipper. I'm going to flip this house and have my money, and it's all good.
Right, which means they're not going to hold generally. There's going to be another transaction that he's saying. So market of the moment, here's the thing that I wanted to just add is that 65% of the real estate agents in our industry were not in the business in 2008 when we had this market before. So there's your opportunity. That's why we're doing these monthly webinars on the markets of the moment, like forbearance last month, and now absentee owners, and then we're going to have something on short sales and foreclosures, because the majority of the agents haven't experienced that, so they don't necessarily know how to go after short sales, what NODs are, all those types of things. So there's your opportunity, guys, and we need to work together so that you can help your clients, as Monica said, as well as capture the inventory that is coming, right? Because we know that you got a list to last. And there's going to be listings coming, and we have a shortage of inventory, and you want to be in the forefront of that.
So I think we've kind of established that, okay, guys, here's the market of the moment, right? And I know that the question that's probably on everybody's head is, all right, how do I find them and how do I do this, right? How do I find them and how do I take advantage of the market? And so I want to go into that a bit, because I think when we really look at the opportunity that we have in moving a business forward and creating a sustainable business model, is we have to have a system around it, right? There's lead generation, there's our follow-up, where we know the fortunates in the follow-up, and then there's the actual lead conversion. And so we identify what lead generation models we're going to follow and we're going to pursue in a market of the moment. We know right now a lot of the traditional forms of lead generation that we're used to are off the table. Open houses, door knocking, a lot of those pieces, right? So we're looking at, okay, what are the lead generation opportunities that I have available to me right now? And what are the lead generation, sources that I'm going to pursue? And so if absentee owners is one of those sources, then let's get a little bit more into how you can do that. And I'm going to share some of the traditional ways, right? And then I'm going to have Jorge share some of the models that he knows of where you can find some of this information. Now, a really traditional way of sourcing absentee owners, and I'll note, you guys, those that know me know I love leverage, and so I'm going to know this is a lower leverage source, right? This is a lower leverage source is what they have always called driving for dollars, right? Which is literally driving around and looking for those properties that seem a little bit neglected, that maybe look like they're vacant, right? Now, if you're off right now, and that's one of the things that you choose to do, I'm never going to say that that's not lucrative. Every form of lead generation works. We just want to use the ones that are going to be most efficient for our time. And if you know, hey, I have a specific commute, and while I'm going to and from, the office or whatever that might be, then you might want to take a couple different turns to see if you identify. The goal here with driving for dollars is really just to identify those properties and take action on them, right? Checking tax records. So checking tax records is going to be another way. Browsing our rental listings, right? Browsing rental listings to identify properties that have absentee owners. Buying absentee owner list, right? Those are going to be just some of the ways that we initially find them. Now, Jorge, I know that you are privy to some tools that agents can use to make it a little bit easier to find these absentee owners. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Sure. I'm going to share my screen again.
Awesome.
So we have a tool that is called PCT Title Toolbox. Pretty simple to use. You can do property search, property profiles. You can do statistics, but you can also do farming. I'm going to do a quick farming so you guys can see how easy it is to get absentee owners. I'm going to go to area search, and I'm going to put City of Downey. And if you don't have an account, it's very easy to set up your account. Just give me a call and I will set up your account in 5 minutes. You see here, owner occupied, you click here. I'm sorry, you click here and you put no. So that means it's absentee owners, city of Downey, get count. And in literally in 2 minutes, I'm gonna know exactly how many absentee owners we have in the city of Downey. If you wanna download, there's 2,866. My account is set up for single family residents, but you can change, you can put duplex, triplex, you can even put commercial properties. I just want to keep it small farm, otherwise we'll take extra time searching all that. This is what we call live data. The system is pulling this from the city right now. So now it's gonna download 2,866 properties. From here, you can go to export and you can download these as a CSV form, and you can send this CSV form to our sister company who can help you give, who's gonna give you cell numbers and emails and landlines for these records. You're not gonna get all those records, the 2,866, because some numbers are private and these numbers are scrubbed. So you're not gonna be able to get all those numbers, but you're gonna get, usually it's around 70% you get numbers on those records. But it's that easy, that simple. Now you know exactly how many absentee owners you have in the city of Downey for single family residents. And I can show you how to change that to duplex, triplex, quadruplex. And if you want to do commercial properties, you can do commercial properties too. It's that simple.
I'm gonna note, guys. So I want to just touch on that for a second, because Jorge said there. So just looking at this particular segment, we're looking at about 2,800, right? And when we look at 70% that we can get phone numbers for, that's a little bit over 1,900, right? That's a pretty sizable amount of people, and this essentially becomes our farm, right? So when we talk about a lead generation strategy, what does that look like, right? So there's a couple factors that I want to talk about here. Is any type of lead generation works. And there's two things that are really important that we know to be true, is that there's one side of it is when you make a phone call and you identify somebody that's ready to go right now, right? That's just the law of numbers. If you make enough calls, if you do enough marketing, if you put yourself out there enough, if you ask for the business enough, you will find someone, right? One side of the spectrum. That's one transaction immediately right now. We love that. And then I also want to talk about a little bit more on the follow-up, and we'll go into that in terms of the different types of marketing, right? But once we've had a conversation, right? If we can get these individuals into our databases, right? If we can get these individuals into our databases and create that consistency, create that relationship, be of consistent value to them, right? Be the first person that they think of. If they're in a great situation right now, awesome. We love that, right? And yet we want to grow the database because in the future, they might not be, right? In the future, they might be in a different situation. So I don't want you guys to lose that opportunity there. This is a great tool so that we can get as much information as possible, right? So we've gone through what are absentee owners? Why are they important? Where do we get them, right? Where do we get them? Now let's talk a little bit on how we're gonna, and I see the labels right there. We're gonna talk a little bit on how do we lead generate to them, right? How do we actually lead generate to our absentee owners? How do we start capturing some of this business? Because I guarantee, I know the questions that people ask when we're like, hey, okay, I've selected my form of lead generation. Now what do I do? What's next, right? Now that you have the information, what's that next piece that happens? Part of it is gonna be, we need to go ahead and actually start prospecting to that particular market. And there's gonna be a couple different ways that we prospect to that. Jorge, since you're screen sharing right now, do you wanna share a couple of those things? And then I'll go into after we go through a couple of the tools for prospecting that you have, then I'll go through one of the scripts for a little bit more of the cold calling model.
Okay, so we have a lot of also marketing that we can help you. That again, this is to our sister company, thanks to Javier Munoz. So we have the real estate letters. So you see the first one is absentee owners. The CSV form that you see on that title toolbox we can mail merge that CSV farm with these letters. So you just need to find the right letter. This is, for me, is the perfect letter. Rental property for here, and here is gonna be the name of the owner of the house, not the site address. It's gonna be the mailing address, and on the bottom is gonna be your information. These can be mail merged in no time with a CSV form. You send that CSV form to our sister company, and they can use this letter. You can choose. There's like 6 or 7 different letters that you can choose. 5. You can choose. There's also absentee owners flyers that they can do for you guys, and these are Instagram posts can be done too. They can be customized with your information, your logo, and all that. So we have you covered with letters. We have you covered with the farming, with the marketing. Pretty much everything is ready for you guys. You just need to contact our sister company, mymarketing123@yahoo.com, and they will take care of these in a second. Pretty much can be done in 5 minutes. This is pretty simple for them. Any questions?
If you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat box. I know one of the questions that I'm sure people have out there is, okay, how do I get access to this? What I'll do is I'll make sure for everybody that is attending that we'll send out the information so that you can access that, and I'll make sure to send out our contact information as well. A couple things that I want to go through right there. So Jorge has some letter scripts, right? Some letter pieces that are built out and available. I want to talk about what we look at as a model, because there's the model that we implement in order to market to a particular category. Now, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, we talk about this as an 8x8, right? When we make a first contact, what does that follow-up look like? Now, I'll note, most of the time, the first contact, it could be that they respond to your letter and they call in about the letter. It could be that they see your post on social media and they respond to that, right? Or it could be that you're targeting them. Now, Jorge, one question that you had, one question that I have, you mentioned that you can pull with your sister company phone numbers. Are you also able to get some emails, and about what percentage of that?
Emails, you get more emails than cell numbers. Usually we get around 80% of the emails, and from that CSV farm. We get landlines. Landlines, you get even more landlines than cell numbers. So either way, you can text, you can email, and you can do cold calling. All these numbers, like I said, they're straw. So you're not going to get in trouble if you call these numbers. They may be upset because you're calling. That's a different story. And it's not all the touches are going to be good. Some touches are going to be ugly, and you need to move on to the next one with a happy face and forget what happened with that touch. Move on to the next one.
Absolutely right. I love that you mentioned that. For those of you that are newer in this business or have never gotten a rejection call, one of the things that I used to do was I would keep a whiteboard and I would write down the worst thing that somebody said, and I tried to beat it, right? The worst call that I got. So it's about the mindset that we have is definitely a part of that. But the reason that I wanted to ask that question, right, is a couple things here, you guys, as we do lead generation. I'm big on leverage, right? I'm really big on leverage, on what does a system like this look like, right? So what would it look like if I was able to have 8 touches for, we said 70% of them have, cell phone numbers, 80% of those contacts have emails that are associated with it, right? So what would it look like if I was able to get in front of those individuals 8 times over the next 8 weeks? What if I could be that person that was connected with them consistently, right? So what if I'm able to give them a call, right? And find out if there's any type of motivation there. What if they got an email from me with the letter that Jorge showed us? What if they got a mailer from me, right? An actual letter in the mail that has that same information. What if they got a text message, right? What if they got a video from you? And then another text message and another email, right? We want to hug them. We want to capture them. We want to get them. What we look at, that's one of the reasons that when we start marketing to a cold, what we would call a colder farm, which essentially, what is this? This is a cold farm. It's people that we don't know, right? We want to create that connection, right? We want to create that connection, and that way we can get them into our database, because some of them may answer and say, yes, I need to sell right now. And some of them might be okay right now. And that might change next month, right? I'll note, if we just look at what's been going on with the pandemic, I'll give you an example from my own family's portfolio of properties, right? The first month of the pandemic, about 10% were struggling with paying rent, right? Then that increase in month 2, and in month 3, it went up dramatically, right? And while there might be resources that are out there to help some of the landlords if they're on top of it, there are some landlords that will not be able to sustain that. And so they might be okay right now. They might have taken immediate action right now. I know a lot of investors that have looked at, refinancing their whole portfolio, or maybe pulling equity out of a property that was 100% paid off already, so that they could manage the rest of their properties, right? There's a lot of actions that investors are taking right now to move that forward. And so I want you guys to understand that when we lead generate to any segment of the market, this isn't one of those things where we say, oh, I choose to market to absentee owners, and oh my gosh, I didn't get any results in week 1. I'm giving up and I'm trying something else, right? Time on task. It's about consistency. So if you choose a particular form of lead generation, if absentee owners, you say, hey, I want to master this, then you want to master it, right? Then you want to use all of the touches, then you want to have all of these pieces incorporated in. So I'm going to share a script with you, and then I'll share a little bit about some of the different ways that you could potentially automate some of the activities right now as well, right? I love somebody said right here, let's be thankful for her in a couple seconds. So thank you for sharing that as well. I'm gonna share a script with you guys as well, because I know that some of you might be asking, hey, what do I say? Right? If I call, what do I say? And you guys know me, I'm big on just being consistent across the board. I'm big on making it as easy as possible, right? So that we can walk through that. So can you guys all see this right here? Thumbs up. Okay, awesome. And we're gonna come in right over here. Now, this is a base absentee owner script, right? I want to note a couple things. This is not necessarily asking a question about what's going on in the market. It's not necessarily asking a question about, hey, are your tenants paying rent right now, right? We're not necessarily asking that question up front. Here's why. You don't have the rapport yet. This is the cold call, right? You start asking somebody about it, whether they're employed or not. You start asking somebody about if their tenants are paying rent immediately, and you haven't built up some rapport with them first, right? What happens? Right? So the goal of the initial call, the cold call, is really, we want to identify if they're a particular person that might be somebody that I can move forward with. Now I'm going to note, we're going to start with the no, because that one's more likely, right? We get the no more than we get the yes, and yet we don't want to do this. We also don't want to be the person that calls and somebody says no right away and we're like, okay, thank you, right? Next, right? Because we lose opportunity there. So we want to continue the conversation. So it starts off really simple. Hi, this is your name at Keller Williams. The reason I'm calling is I noticed you had a property on 123 Main Street. And you see right now it's a seller's market, and sellers are getting top dollar for their homes quickly. So I wanted to know if you're interested in selling. I'm going to note, guys, so some of you might be thinking, is it a seller's market? And if you've been on my weekly market update classes, you know that we have limited inventory right now, right? Especially in Los Angeles County, inventory that's hitting the market. We are still in a low inventory market right now, right? Prices have not decreased. In fact, prices in Los Angeles County for properties that are for sale are actually up from what they were pre-COVID, right? They're actually up from what they were pre-COVID. We are still getting offers over market, right? That's huge.
Yep. I would change that script if you're doing absentees from homes to property, right? You know, make that adjustment, especially if you're calling the multi-units and things like that. You know, the other quick thing, and I don't want to, if you're already going down this road, is that this is about nurture, right? Like you said, and these are absentee owners, meaning that you're the expert in the local market because they're absentee, they don't live here. So the stats that Monica, you know, and Jorge are sharing, you know, here's what our vacancy rates are, here's what our non-payment of rent rates are, here's what our increase in sales have been for non-owner occupied residences. Here's our unemployment. Here's the stuff local in LA County. They don't really have that information like we do because they live somewhere else. So you're the local expert. So if you come from contribution in your approach with absentee owners, they're going to be a lot more receptive because again, you're the local expert.
Which means you have to become a student of the market. Right? Which also means you have to become a student of the market. So if you don't feel right now that, hey, I can take them down that path, then loop into trainings that are going to help you to cultivate that way of thinking, right? You're all welcome on our weekly market update where we go over that, where we talk about that pre-COVID impact, because you want to have that information if somebody starts asking about the market, right? But I want to know right away, are they interested in selling? The most common answer we get is no. Right? The most common answer we get is no. And a lot of you get that and hang up the phone and you're like, okay, thank you, goodbye, right? We don't want to do that, right? We don't want to do that. We want to continue the conversation. We want to become a master of asking questions that are going to help us to continue the conversation, right? We want to be masters of asking questions to help continue the conversation. And I'm gonna have you guys write a couple notes here because I want to know with this. Let me ask you if the property is currently rented. We might want to change that a little bit. You know, is your property rented out right now, and how's that going? Right, and how's that going with the market that we're in? Right, because they're gonna say, you know, yeah, it's currently rented, and they might say, you know, it's going great. Okay, awesome. Right? Okay, awesome.
Another thing you could say is, has this current economic situation impacted your tenant's ability to pay rent?
Yes. That's huge. I'd be writing down those questions, you guys, right? These are really powerful questions because this is a traditional absentee non-resident owner script. And so we want to tweak it for the market that we're in, right? We want to tweak it for the market that we're in. They may say, you know, but we're struggling a little bit, right? And so we want to go ahead and dive into may I ask what the plans for your home are? They might say property is vacant, property is in probate, we had to rent it because we're upside down. Let me ask, were you hoping, so we're coming down here real quick and then we're going to come back up to here. And I'm going to take you guys down this path real quick. They're going to know, let me ask you, were you hoping for a quick sale or did you want to put it on the market? Now, if they go quick sale, right, great. I'll reach out to my investors and work on putting an offer together for you. How does that sound? Right? They said they weren't interested in selling, and now you've opened up opportunity here. That, you know what, maybe I am. Maybe I would be willing if I had an investor willing to work. And I will tell you what is the one thing that you can always find in a shifted market. It's investors, right? It's everybody that's been holding their money and waiting for opportunity, right? It's those individuals that are out there. So let's say they go the other direction. They're like, you know what, it's rented, and we may ask, you know, would you consider selling it once the lease is up? Right? Again, it's around what is the plan that they have for the property. Now, if they say no, here's the thing. If they're in a good position, if they have great equity, if all of their tenants are paying rent, if they're in a really positive, their portfolio is doing great, they're in a solid position, then they may fall into that other category, right? The investors that are interested in more opportunity. And so that's where we want to have a question so that we can identify those individuals as well. Would you be interested in investing in other properties like this one if the deal was right? Right? Would you be interested in investing in other properties like this one if the deal is right? because I want to find those people too, right? That's a great database to have to say, okay, let me get you added, you know, to my investor list. Great. If I was to find a deal that was right for you, would you be in a position to close on it within the next 60 days? That's a powerful question because you're positioning it as almost a presumptive close, right? But you're also finding out their financial resources very quickly. You're finding out how serious they are, right? And we want to find those individuals, and I want to make a note of them in the system because what happened? We said the fortune is in the follow-up, right? This is the lead generation. We want to capture information. We want to capture permission to be in contact with them. Or when will you be in a position to purchase your next investment, right? Again, this one here, would you be interested in investing like this one if the deal was right and they say no? Okay, I understand. Do you mind if I follow up with you later to see if things change? We're getting permission, right? This is all about capturing their information. So I want to stay there for a little bit. The point of lead generation, when we're lead generation, there's two outcomes that we want to create, right? There's two outcomes that we want to create. One, we want to set appointments with the people that are ready to go right now, right? We want to set those appointments. We want to identify those individuals. But the secondary part is we want to build our pipeline of future business. And we do that by feeding the database and marketing that to them consistently, right? And marketing to them consistently. Before we go into a little bit more of the follow-up and how do we get some of that automation going, because I do want to share a little bit about that. But any questions that we have or anything that you want to add, Jorge or Rich, on this?
No, I mean, that's pretty much, I mean, that's a huge market there. And at the end, if you let me talk about the future, I would like to say something about the NOV and the trust to sell market that is coming.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll definitely, that's a great point. We'll definitely touch on that.
Yeah, and I think that now more than ever, this is going to be an easier conversation with less objections because the whole world knows that tenants don't have to pay rent and they can't be evicted. That's all over the news. Everybody knows that. That's part of the whole CARES Act program. So it's not going to be unusual if you come from contribution and care to say, just as a local real estate expert, wanted to check on you. It looks like that you're an out-of-town owner, and I wanted to see if you need any information on the local real estate market. As you know, with the CARES Act, that a lot of tenants aren't paying rent right now. I want to see how that current economic situation is impacting you, if there's anything that you need. I mean, you really could take that approach as a caring real estate local professional, and you're not going to get a rejection. They're actually going to be thankful that you called them, right? Versus just, do you want to sell? Just come from that standpoint. And we haven't ever been able to do that before, because of this whole situation that has been created and the government's created, to where now we're coming from a service place.
Yeah, that's huge, right? That's going to be really huge as we're just working with all of these different individuals, and we're identifying those people that are essentially ready to go right now. So I'm going to note a couple things for you guys as well that are going to be important, that are going to be useful for you as you're going through this. So I want to talk about leverage, right? I want to talk about leverage, and I'll note, those that are asking for the absentee script, yes, absolutely. I'll have a way for you guys to get that as well. But a little bit on leverage. It's okay. We get our database and we've got, this list of 2,800 individuals that we were looking at in Downey, right? We've got a percentage of them that have cell phone numbers, 70%. We've got 80% that have emails. Now we have a phone script so that we can actually work through and call them, right? We have a phone script so we can work through and call them. But I'm big on, we want to wrap ourselves around these potential individuals. Once we get their information, we want to make sure that we're almost omnipresent in their lives, right? What does that look like? What would it look like from a follow-up perspective if you could automate some of that? right? What does that look like? So I'll know, and it's just about creating leverage. Diego, you mentioned something really great about utilizing the farms as part of a smart plan, right? As part of a smart plan. So what if you uploaded that entire database, right? That entire database. For those of you that utilize Command, I'm going to talk a little bit to the opportunity within commands. I know, there's other tools that are out there. I can't really speak to those, but I can speak to the tool that we have and what that looks like for the associates, right? And so a couple things on what that looks like within the system. So I'm going to note whenever we create a touch campaign, I'm going to share my screen for a second here, right? Let me here we go. So what this is essentially your smart plans, but what if you had a smart plan or a follow-up campaign that used the letter script that Jorge included as an email, right? What if you could import everybody and create a direct postcard to send out, right? What if you could immediately add them to that email piece? They could get information, hyper-local information about the market that their property is in. Now I'm gonna note, we said a lot of these individuals, they are in areas that they don't necessarily live in the area. So they don't necessarily have that hyper-local information. So a couple pieces here, right? This is an example of a long-term nurture, but I'm gonna note it as though it were a plan specific for absentee owners, right? Linking to a monthly neighborhood nurture, right? That's what this piece is here, is essentially a monthly email giving them hyper-local market information, sharing the listings in the areas that are around the subject property, right? Which means every single month, they're finding out who listed in their property. Now, I don't know about you, but if I own a property in a particular area and I start seeing the listings in that area, I want to know because I want to see what my home is worth or what my property is worth, right? You can have a contact to call you, right? Another task could be sending them an email, sending an automated text message. Here's the key about this is that we take the emotion out of it, right? For those of you that are like, what do I say, right? What do I say? Well, the script is there for what do you say? But then we're like, well, I don't want to text them because I'm going to be bothering them. Well, I don't want to send that email because I'm going to be bothering them, right? And in reality, what we could do is quickly just add a ton of different individuals very, very fast, right? 50 at a time, add them onto the campaign, let it go ahead and go out, and you take the emotion of the lead generation out of it, right? So I wanted to just share this really quickly because I think that there's a key around that. And here's the other piece. What if all of a sudden you were appearing all over their Facebook? What if you did a targeted ad, right, within the system as well, some type of paid campaign, and you did that specific to the people in that group? Why absentee owners are selling right now? How to get top dollar for your rental property. And you target it to those individuals because guess what? You have their emails. You have their emails, which means for a lot of them, you can connect with them on Facebook. I'll note that is one of the easiest way to find warm leads because they're coming to you, right? You send a text message and all of a sudden you're getting a response. I'll know one of our agents shared, she sent a text message to 137 people and got about 76 responses, right? About 76 responses, and it took less than 5 minutes, right? It took less than 5 minutes. That's huge, right? That's huge to be able to run an advertisement like this. And this is the key here, is that an advertisement targeted towards absentee owners, of which now you have their emails, you're targeting to a specific list. What happens? You're identifying seller leads, not just buyer leads, right? You're identifying seller leads. So I'm not going to go too much into that because that takes a lot more showcasing, but I want to kind of review a little bit of what we talked about, right? I want to review a little bit of what we talked about. It's so important right now to understand the markets that are currently available to us, right? It's important that we understand that when we look at what is going on in today's industry, and we look at what's going on in the market that we're in right now, it's different. The market is different right now. We don't have the same ability. If you've been the master at open houses, I hate to break it to you guys, but that's not really a possibility right now. So you have to pivot. You have to have that new market so that you can still thrive in what we're going into. And that's identifying the market that we're in right now. You have to be able to use the tools, right, to capture more people and to build sustainable business. Because I say this with compassion and heart for what everybody's going through right now, because the market has shifted so much. There's a quote that I really love, which says, you can't expect to meet the challenges of today with yesterday's tools and expect to be in business tomorrow. You can't expect to meet the challenges of today with yesterday's tools and expect to be in business tomorrow. That's why we're doing this, right? Is yesterday's tools, they don't work anymore, right? Yesterday's tools that worked even 3 months ago, they don't work anymore, right? We're in a whole new world right now. We have to take advantage of the tools that are out there and available to us right now. We have to take advantage of the markets that are available to us right now. Forbearances that we talked about, right? Forbearances that we talked about, absentee owners that we're talking about right now. Next month, with our next webinar, we're still solidifying the date. We'll be talking about a little bit of commercial, right? Retail and office space, the short-term rental market, Airbnb properties that were used for Airbnb, right? And I'll note, because I know there's a lot of questions out there on notice of default. There's a lot of questions out there on the foreclosure and REO market. So the one thing I want to note on the REO and foreclosure market, guys, is if you're thinking, I'm going to wait until I can get back into the REO and foreclosure market, you're late, because that's going to be maybe next year we'll start seeing that impact, but we're not going to see that immediately because the forbearance piece needs to play out, right? We still need to know what's going to happen with the forbearances. That has to play out. Is it coming? Possibly, right? But probably not till next year. Now, notice of defaults is going to be a little bit different, because I know I'm starting to see, and especially from what Jorge shared a little bit earlier, we're starting to see even some of those properties that are forbearance, right? That's hitting people's reports, even though the thought was that it wouldn't. Can you share a little bit more on that, Jorge?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So it's key for us to understand what's going on. First is delinquencies. We're seeing a lot. Next step is gonna be the NODs. Some counties like Riverside, they're starting to happen. I'm seeing a lot now. But because the forbearance and all these, they're stopping pretty much the foreclosure. So we're not seeing a lot of trustee sales. But for you guys, it's key to understand what's an NOD with equity and NOD with no equity. It's completely two different approaches. The one with equity, they need to sell fast. Otherwise, they will lose some of that equity. They're not going to lose their equity, but the lender can use that equity to pay for the trustee, the lawyers, and all that. And it's around 20% what they're going to lose. And not only that, that money will go to a trust account, and they need to put a claim. So it's key for you guys to understand what's going on with this market. Right now, it's all about absentee owners. But let's get ready to start talking to these people before they even hit NODs and trustee sales. And you have the information on that email. And I have to give props to Javier Munoz from Down Exterminators. He keeps paying for that retrend that it was not really helping a lot, and now he's helping a lot. So thank you, Javi. I know he's on the call. I just don't want to miss that chance to say thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Javier, for sure. And I'll note, guys, what Jorge brought up right now on the equity or no equity position is going to be really important. I'm going to do a quick share, but I'm gonna just gloss over it because this was from our forbearance training, right? So if you want this information, I'll make sure that I send out the link as well. But this is when we went over forbearances, going to be similar with those that are NODs, right? If they're in equity position, what are the options, right? And if they're in a no equity position, what does that look like, right? As well as information about the deficiencies. That's from the forbearance training we did, right? So retake a look at that as we look at this NOD market. That's going to be really important.
Yep. Forbearance, remember, is like pre-foreclosure. There's over 5 million people in forbearance. Not all of them are financially struggling, as we talked about, but there's a huge number of those 5 million people that can't afford their payments, which is why they're in forbearance. Once forbearance runs out, then it's going to go NOD, right? Then it's going to go foreclosure. So it's about getting into relationship. It's about educating the consumer. It's about helping them save their credit, helping them save their equity by selling now, if that's the case. And that's the part that we're talking about, and the train that we're going to continue to pour into to help you be in the right position for the market of the moment. Because again, there's only about 35% of the agents that have even experienced the 2008 default market. Nobody's experienced the forbearance market. So, you know, you don't have a whole lot of competition, especially if you get in front of this right now, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So a couple things, any questions that we have? I think we might have got most of them answered. Will we provide the script? Yes, we will. Thank you. Thank you as well for being on. I'm gonna know, one last thing, and we'll kind of wrap it up because I realize we're right on time, right? One, thank you so much, Javier Munoz, because I know we wouldn't be able to do this without the tools that are available. So we really appreciate that. Thank you, Jorge, as well, because there's some phenomenal tools there and some great numbers that I definitely think are really useful. So I know we appreciate that. Thank you, Rich, for being on here with me as well. And for sharing, because you've been through, quite a few shifted markets. And so you bring extremely valuable information to the table for our associates.
Monique, can I ask you a favor?
Yes.
Can you repeat the quote about the tools?
Absolutely. You can expect to meet the challenges of today with yesterday's tools and expect to be in business tomorrow.
You guys see my old cell phone? That was the brick. I have a little bag. Yeah, it looks cool, but guess what? Doesn't work. So this is all tools that look cool, but it's not gonna make me any money.
I have one of those.
I got the flip phone.
Oh no, this is the thing. It's a little bag.
Put it in front of you. Put it in front of you so we could see it. Is that was the cell phone carrying case?
Yeah, that was the carrying case.
Oh, there it went.
And before that, you had to have it hardwired installed into your car.
Yeah.
Right, that's huge. So one last quote to wrap up, right? They say that history is written by the victors. They say that history is written by the victors. And I'll note, I'm not scared about what history is going to write about us, because I intend to win. And I want you to all win with us, right? I want you to all win with us. And that's why we're doing the training like this, is because we want to bring you forward with us. The industry has changed, and we're not looking at how real estate was done yesterday. We're not looking at how real estate, and not training to how real estate was done even 3 months ago. We're training to how real estate is done now and will be done in the future. Right, so I hope that this was valuable. I thank you all for spending your morning hour with us. Keep an eye out for our next big webinar. And then anybody who'd like to join us on our weekly market updates or any of the other daily calls we do, feel free to connect with us. If you would like the script and you would like the resources, you can email me at monica@monicarivera.com. And you can also visit, it'll be up later today. You can visit realestaterevolution.co, right? realestaterevolution.co for training. Our weekly market updates are on there. The forbearance training is on there. Guest speakers that we've had out, Kathy Oakes, Mega Max coach, Claudia Restrepo, who was the number one, the first woman to hit the number one spot with the NAREP 250 who's spoken for us before. All of those trainings are available on that site for you as well. So with that, I hope you all have an absolutely blessed rest of your day. Happy Thursday. Go out and change somebody's life. Bye, everyone.